It's a great time to be a fan of retro gaming. The community is more active than ever. Every year there's new products and games for old consoles. There's countless videos, podcasts, and blogs, all discussing the topic of vintage video games.
There's even a dedicated community of game hackers that are always finding new ways to update and often improve the games we grew up with. One of my favorite ways I've seen these hacks implemented is by adding two-player cooperative modes to a single-player game.
You can accomplish this by updating the original ROM with a patch. Co-op hacks, as well as countless others, can be found at romhacking.net. After the game is patched, play it on your favorite emulator, the Mister, or if you have a flash cart, on original hardware. Today we're talking about the NES co-op hacks. Bomberman.
The Bomberman series is primarily known for the multiplayer competitive gameplay. When I was growing up, I spent countless hours getting together with friends to have Bomberman tournaments. The Super Bomberman games, Mighty Bomberman, Saturn Bomberman, and even Bomberman 2 are all great games that still offer some of the best multiplayer around.
However, Bomberman isn't only a great competitive game, it can provide some great co-op gaming as well. Cooperative gameplay has become a staple of the series, and I feel that it's one of the features that makes Bomberman great.
Well, now we can finally play the original Bomberman with a friend, as a team. The romhacking.net user Corpse Grinder put together this great hack. He's also responsible for the Super Mario Bros. Co-op hack. We'll talk about that later.
The black color palette for Player 2 stands out and really helps prevent any confusion between players.
From what I played, the hack is solid. No noticeable glitches or anything. It really feels like this is how the game was meant to be played. I don't think I'll be going back to the vanilla version anytime soon. There's even some nice additions in the menu that allow for some customization in your game.
The one downside is that if one player dies, you have to start the level over. So you better have a good partner or you probably won't have a lot of fun.
Unfortunately, most of the hacks we're talking about today have this same issue and or feature, however you want to look at it.
Ducktales 2.
The original Ducktales is one of my all-time favorite platformers. The music is timeless, the responsive controls just make platforming feel so good, and it's just the perfect length and difficulty for this type of game. You can pick it up and play it in one sitting without too much of a problem.
And of course, I can't forget to mention the pogo jumping. It's perfect. An attack and a form of transportation. This has to be one of my favorite mechanics in a game.
All that being said, until now, I just never got around to playing DuckTales 2, primarily because it's a really expensive NES game. Luckily, I decided to go to the flash cart route a while back, so now I can play any game on original hardware, as well as hacks and homebrews.
DuckTales 2 is pretty much just more of the same, and I don't think that's a bad thing, but some new mechanics or updates would have been a nice change of pace. Just like with most single-player games, the thought of co-op always comes to my mind. Yeah, the game is great, but I can't help but feel like it would be even more enjoyable if I could share the experience with a co-op buddy.
This one is an interesting choice. Instead of using another sprite from DuckTales or a Scrooge McDuck palette swap, the hacker decided to use the sprites from the Darkwing Duck NES game. I like the choice, even though it is a little weird seeing Darkwing do the pogo jump on his foot instead of the cane that Scrooge uses.
On paper, this seems like a great idea for a co-op edition, but the execution is slightly lacking. I guess it just feels unfinished or something.
The main issue that comes up is if Scrooge goes to the next screen first, Darkwing won't come along, so you end up having to go back a screen to get him. To proceed through levels in an effective way, you need to have Darkwing go first, then when he is off the screen, it's safe for Scrooge to move on. This seems like it could be easily fixed by just allowing the transition between screens to be triggered by either player, or at least have Darkwing appear when Scrooge goes first.
This hack also suffers from the if either player dies, we both have to start the level over feature. There's a lot of potential here. I hope an update patch could be added in the future to make it a little less frustrating. This hack was done by the romhacking.net veteran TI. They are also responsible for providing numerous hacks for the community.
Specifically another co-op hack for the game P.O.W. So let's talk about that now. P.O.W. Prisoners of War. When it comes to beat-em-ups, it's pretty much a requirement for them to at least be two players. So it was always disappointing when we got an arcade port on our home consoles that was only single player. Bad Dudes, Double Dragon, and P.O.W. are all examples of that very serious problem.
Luckily, P.O.W. can now be played the way it was intended, with a friend on your Nintendo Entertainment System. This is an example of a hack that really brings new life into an old game. It could be an official release. There's going to be more flickering, but that can't be avoided with the sprite limitation on the NES.
Each character has their own life bar and lives. But again, in this hack, if one player runs out of lives, it's game over for both.
So that part is slightly disappointing, but I still highly recommend this hack. Final Fantasy III. When it comes to RPGs, it's pretty rare to find any that can be experienced with another player. However, the few that came out in the 8 and 16-bit era still stand out as really great co-op game experiences.
There are countless great RPGs that could potentially benefit from some multiplayer gameplay. The co-op hack for Final Fantasy III attempts just that.
This is an interesting one. First of all, Final Fantasy III is a Japanese Famicom exclusive.
First, you'll need the fan translation patch to be able to play it in English. Then you'll need to apply the co-op patch.
So, how does it work? Well, unfortunately, it's a little underwhelming. The second player controls the bottom two characters in battle, and only in battle. The first player will be the only one visible and playable on the overworld map. And that's about it.
I don't know what else they could do to better implement co-op gameplay. It's a turn-based RPG, so it's about all you can ask for. I guess some sort of control outside of battle would be nice. Despite the lackluster co-op gameplay, with the right partner, I could still see myself really getting into this. I just love an old-school turn-based RPG, and would really enjoy being able to share it with someone.
I would be interested to see other hackers attempt to add co-op into RPGs with their own unique takes. This one was done by romhacking.net user Starwin. New Ghostbusters 2.
When I first saw gameplay footage of New Ghostbusters 2, I was so excited to try playing it with a friend. I saw the two characters on screen and assumed it would be co-op. I was disappointed to learn that it was in fact a single-player game.
When I discovered this co-op hack, I couldn't wait to play the game the way I originally planned. This game just works so well as a co-op experience. I mean, there's always two characters on screen, so I think it was a no-brainer to make the addition. One player shocks the ghost and the other sucks them up into the proton pack. You actually have to work together. Perfect for co-op. This hack was done by Evgeny, and they did an excellent job.
The only real issue is that the first player receives damage when the second player is attacked. I would like for both players to have their own health. But other than that, this might be my favorite of the bunch.
Super Mario Bros. Now it's time for that Super Mario Bros. Hack we mentioned before.
Like most video game obsessed children, I always loved the Mario games. But until the new Super Mario Bros. Games, I had to settle for the alternating turns method of two-player. Well, thanks again to Corpse Grinder, my childhood fantasy has become reality. This is the two-player action I always wanted. I really think Mario is more fun as a co-op game.
But you better find a partner that matches your skill, because once again, if one of you dies, you both start the level over. I would love to see some sort of bubble system, like in the new Super Mario Bros. Games. Or at least just make the player that dies wait it out until the other player finishes the level. Oh well, we get to play Super Mario Bros. In co-op mode now. I'm not going to be picky. Wrecking 2. Wrecking 2 is a co-op hack of Wrecking Crew, but this one is a lot more than just adding co-op. There were complete level redesigns as well. The user that created this hack goes by Poochie Darcy.
They really put a lot of love and care into this hack. If you're not familiar with Wrecking Crew, it's actually just a lesser known Mario game, but it's very different from your typical Mario games. He even has a new profession as a construction worker. What a multi-talented man, that Mario.
The object of the game is to destroy various walls and ladders while avoiding enemies and random fireballs.
It seems pretty straightforward, but every level ends up being a puzzle that you need to solve to advance.
In the hack, the second player now takes control of Mario's foreman, Spike. Spike is able to do just about everything Mario does, but he doesn't take damage at all, and is on the opposite side of the walls.
So I could see that getting a little confusing at times when the player is unable to see Spike. Overall, this might be the most impressive hack of the bunch. Just so much attention to detail. The only technical issue in the game that we noticed was on the bonus stages. For some reason, Spike loses control and can't really participate.
We had a lot of fun figuring out these puzzles as a team. With the level select on the title screen, I can definitely see us picking this one back up where we left off. Zelda II.
Zelda was a childhood favorite. But as a codependent gamer, once again, I had dreams of sharing these amazing adventures with a friend and or lover.
Four Swords Adventure is great and all, but it's not a mainline game in the series, and due to the hardware and cable requirements, it's just not realistic for most to play.
Thanks to Von Fahrenheit, we can finally hang out in Hyrule with that special someone, or brother slash friend slash or whatever. It's just a shame that it's the worst Zelda game of the series. I would love to see co-op in literally any other mainline Zelda game, but I do enjoy Zelda 2 to some extent. It's just so hard, and the one time I actually made decent progress in the game, my save got erased. Well, maybe this hack will inspire me to attempt to play through it again.
All things considered, this hack was done really well. The color palette swap for the second player Link looks great. Maybe a different character altogether would have been nice, but that's okay. The shared health between players is a little disappointing as well, but again, not going to be picky. Please do more co-op hacks for Zelda games, but yeah, better Zelda games. Shatterhand and Mighty Final Fight.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to try these hacks. They both look great, but they only work through a specific emulator, and I'm just not about that life. But mostly I just couldn't figure it out. Would appreciate versions of these hacks that could be played on real hardware.
We plan to cover more co-op hacks in future videos. What are some of your favorites, and what single-player games do you want to see get a co-op hack?
I'd personally love to see the NES Double Dragon get co-op, or any Zelda or Metroid game. There's just so many, and as always, support local co-op gaming. That is our sign-off, yeah.